One of the listeners to my channel, Bick, asked a very good question about how I started communicating with spirit guides. Now, I wish I had some better information on how to do that and give instructions, but I will tell you my experience because he asked about it and quite a few other listeners have asked about it as well. I communicate with spirit guides on a regular basis. They tell me things, they help me with things, and really everybody in the world has communications from their spirit guides on a daily basis. We're just not always consciously aware of it. Now, I'll give you one little example of this. It's a true story. A man was driving to work. Now, he lived in a big city and had an important job as a businessman, and he took the same route every day to work because it was a long route, but it got him there on time, and it was always reliable. And one day, when he's at an intersection, at this stoplight, instead of turning left where he normally does, he thinks, well, I'll take this different route and I'll go to the right. So he turns right and he gets stuck in an hour-long traffic jam. And he's really mad at himself. Why did I do that? That was so stupid. Well, that was a communication with the spirit guides, and he didn't realize it because that man was on his way to work at the Twin Towers on 9/11. And turning right and getting stuck in that traffic jam saved his life. So we are always communicating with spirit guides. Now, for me personally, what started happening was I would get these messages, and at first I ignored them thinking this is part of my primate brain just making things up. And then I started getting confirmation of things. So it'd be something like, oh, your friend Bob is sad. Give him a call. And I ignore it. And then 2 weeks later, I see Bob, and he says, oh, on such and such a day, the exact day I was thinking of calling him, and I got the message that he was sad because I really wanted to talk to you, but I know how busy you are, so I didn't want to bother you. And now it happens constantly. I get downloads of information or I get communications from my guides. And when I started listening and I would look for verification or confirmation, and I started believing that these were really spirit guides talking with me, that's when it really ramped up. Now, I do spiritual counseling, and so when I get on with a client, I know that extra spirit guides come in to help me because they tell me things about the person. I'll hear it, not audibly in my head or not a voice out loud. It's a very clear, direct mind communication is the best way I can put it. It's an idea that comes into my mind. I was with one client, for example, and his brother, and they mentioned that they were both raised by their uncle. And I started laughing because I got this image that this uncle was a very sort of forceful guy. When he got angry, he really got angry, but for the most part, he was really funny. And I said, oh, your uncle was such a jokester, but when he got mad, oh, watch out. And they said, oh, yeah, that's exactly how he is. So I think when you start listening and you start accepting the reality that we communicate with guides, it becomes clearer. And sometimes I have communications with Jesus and sometimes with God, and they're completely different. Jesus is like talking with your best friend. He always makes me laugh. He's got a great sense of humor. God is more the very profound life messages. And we all have those communications. It's just a matter of learning how to hear them and how to accept them. And I know there's lots of people online who talk about how to communicate with spirit guides. And so I think if you look on YouTube and you do a search, you can get some ideas on how to communicate with them. Now, psychic stuff is not all fun and games. You know, it gets really annoying sometimes because sometimes I'll be watching a movie and then in my mind, I see everything that's going to happen in the movie and that's what happens and it kind of ruins it. So some people think being psychic is all wonderful and it's not. I'll give you an example of one time I had a communication with my guides, and I've talked about this on a couple of other channels as a guest. I was showering outside. I live on a mountaintop in the middle of the woods in East Texas, and there's nobody around, so we have an outdoor shower, and I've gotten used to showering outdoors. And there's a lot of wasps there where I live. And I was out in the yard half the day working, and the wasps weren't bothering me. And when I got in the shower, they were coming in there, and I was getting mad, and I swatted one, and I stepped on it. And another one came in and was buzzing around, and I swatted that one and stepped on it. And I said out loud, why the heck are these wasps bothering me? And my guides very gently, they're never judgmental, they're very matter of fact. And they said, well, you know, there's a drought in Texas right now, and there's this unwritten rule in nature that's not always followed, but it's generally followed, and that is if you're not attacking another animal or creature and you're not threatening their territory, they're not going to bother you. So the wasps thought, well, there's water here. They were desperate for water, and they were coming to drink the dirty bath water that I was throwing away. And I killed them for that. And I just felt awful. So after that, I didn't bother the wasps, and they came in, and I noticed they would go where there was a little bit of water and then drink the water and leave. I didn't even know wasps needed to drink water. I didn't know if they got it from the things they ate, like some animals. I had to look up online to find out that they drink water. But a lot of times it is very helpful. And sometimes if I'm angry at somebody, they'll explain to me exactly what's going on with that person. And when you understand what another person's going through and their perspective, it's hard to be angry at them. So I encourage everybody who's maybe getting thoughts in their head to pay attention and to consider the possibility that maybe you are getting communications from your spirit guides, because everyone does on a regular basis. I hope this helps.